Hi guys, for today, magbibigay lang ako ng konting introduction tungkol sa master budget. Ang master budget is a comprehensive budget that covers all aspects of your business. So halos lahat. It's a very big budget that covers everything and is a comprehensive tool to help you decide so many aspects of your business. And because of that, hindi lang siya isang budget. It's composed of many budgets. Minsan nag-iiba from company to company, pero ito yung mga budget na madalas na nagko-compose ng master budget. So nagsisimula most of the time sa sales budget. So the first thing that you really estimate that becomes the basis for everything is your sales. So gagamitin mo ang yung forecasting powers, psychic powers, look at historical data, and predict your sales because the number of sales will dictate everything. Now, based on your sales budget, meron ka ng estimate ng kailan ng iyong bebenta, you can now estimate how many will you produce. So from there, gagawa ka ng production budget based on your sales budget. Now, meron ka ng idea kung how many you will produce. From there, i-budget mo na yung tatlong components mo for production. Ang materials, labor, tsaka overhead. So, based sa production budget, based sa ilan ang iyong i-produce, i-estimate mo na yung tatlo. Isang budget para sa materials, isang budget sa labor, isa sa overhead. Pag meron ka na nung lahat, you can now make ang dakilang report na cost of goods manufactured and sold to summarize the entire production. So, that's also a budget na gagawin mo. So, look at it from here. Meron ka ng sales, meron ka ng cost of sales. So, para makumpleto yung income statement, yung sa baba na lang, yung operating expense. So, gagawa ka din ng budget para doon. Operating expense budget. Meron ka ng sales cost of goods sold tsaka operating expense, gagawa ka ng budgeted income statement. Based on your budgeted income statement, you can predict what items are cash items to translate these items from accrual to magkano yung cash portion nun. And gagawa ka ng cash budget na cash receipts tsaka cash disbursements. And lastly, based on your income statement tsaka yung cash flow, you can work back and estimate your assets, liabilities, and equity at yun ang yung budgeted balance sheet. These are, again, the components of the master budget. So, let's take a look at it. Just give you a little introduction kung ano yung general format ng bawat isa sa mga budget na to. Once again, if you put them together, ilalagay mo yan, print out mo yan, bookbind mo yan, lalagay mo sabay, ang tawag mo dun, master budget. Sige, tingnan natin ang isa-isa. So, again, lahat ay nagsisimula sa estimate mo for sales. So, your sales budget will always start with your price and your units. And then sales. Very simple formula. Nilalagay mo lang itong units, itong presyo, itong sales. Now, of course, in practice, it's the prediction and the decision that is difficult. Magkano i-charge mo, tsaka it's hard to predict sales. So that's the hard part. But at least the format would be simple. A price, units, and that would be your sales. Again, from your sales, if you know how many to sell, from there, i-compute natin how many to produce. So in your production budget, you start with the sales. Saan ka galing ang sales units? Galing sa sales budget. So yun ang ating unang basis. Now, if you're selling 5,000 units, doesn't mean exactly that you produce 5,000 units. Pwede a little more, pwede a little less. So, ang unang gagawin mo, yung sales units mo, syempre, you also want some buffer, no? Gusto mo na may kunting excess na maging ending inventory. Parang kunting sobra. So, from your sales, you add your desired ending inventory para may sobra ka. So, if you have 5,000 sales, you want an ending inventory of 500, so ang labas, you want to add them to produce 5,500. Ganun ang labas. So, sales, add desired ending inventory, you add that one. But, meron pa tayong minus kasi you don't have to produce all of that. Kasi malay mo pa, meron ka pang beginning inventory, bawasan mo yun kasi meron ka pang konti, yung natira, yun ang production. So, ito ang ating general format for production budget. Sales, Add desired ending inventory less beginning inventory. That's your units to produce. Going back, if you have your production budget, you're going to use that to estimate the three components of the production based on the number of units to produce. Compute ko na materials, labor, overhead. So unahin natin yung materials budget. Yung materials budget always again starts with production. That is the basis. Saan kukunin ang number of units to produce? Galing syempre sa production budget. So, galing doon, lalagay mo yan, ito ang aking units to produce, yan ang production mo. Multiply natin yon by units per product. So, kunwari, if you need 2 components per product, edi times 2. 2 kilos per product, 10 products, times, kailangan mo ng 2 kilo per product, edi times 2. So, you multiply that, and that is the amount of raw materials that you need. No? This is the raw materials that you need. So, ganun. Now, similar to sales, just because you need 5,000 raw materials doesn't mean you have to buy 5,000 raw materials. Again, similar to production budget, based on your raw materials needed, klaro na lang natin to, lagyan natin ng raw materials needed, and i-add mo yung desired ending, add less. Anong meron ka pa, beginning, that will be your raw materials to be purchased. At yan ang number of units na bibilhin mo. Siyempre, lalagyan mo ng presyo ng bawat isa, multiply by cost per unit, that's your raw materials purchases in terms of pesos. So, there's your materials. Again, from your production budget, babalikan lang natin ng sandali. From production budget, gagawin natin yung tatlo, materials, labor, overhead. Nasa labor na tayo. Your labor budget comes from your production, the number of units of production. Saan galing yan, yung number of units of production? Siyempre, galing yan sa iyong production budget. So from there, i-multiply natin to get the labor. Multiply natin per unit. How many hours of labor do you need? Multiply. Lalabas, ilan oras ang kailangan mo. Tapos multiply ng magkano ang bayad mo bawat oras. Yan ang total direct labor. So that's your direct labor budget. It generally looks that way. Last is overhead. So based on your production, you estimate your overhead. Overhead naman by nature is not directly related to production. So it's going to be some kind of estimates. It's basically just a listing of the overheads that you pay. Listahan mo dito, siguro kuryente, 5,000, tubig, 500, etc. So, although it would be helpful for decision making to separate the fixed and variable overhead, that's a good practice, ililista mo lang lahat ng iyong overhead. Estimate yan. This is a very comprehensive budgeting. So you talk to your engineers, etc. So, budget your expenses. And now, going back ulit, balik tayo sa listahan. From your production, na-estimate mo ng materials, labor, overhead, meron ka ng ingredients para gagawin ang iyong summary report. Cost of goods manufactured and sold. Siguro by now, pag meron kang lower accounting, don't tell me, hindi mo pa memorize ang dakilang report na ito, no? Baka memorize mo na to. The cost of goods manufactured. Parang pwede mo na itong i-recite na parang creed. Just to recall, the budget would be based upon the report. And the report, as a refresh, will look like this. Beginning raw materials, add raw material purchase, less ending raw materials is raw materials used. Add direct labor, add overhead is total manufacturing cost. Naalala mo na? Sige, tuloy tayo. Add work in process inventory, less work in process inventory ending is equals to cost of goods manufactured. Add finished goods inventory beginning, less finished goods inventory end equals to cost of goods sold. So, those components, saan galing? Galing sa respective budgets. If you look at it, yung raw material purchases mo, saan galing yan? Sa raw materials budget. Saka yung beginning, saka ending. Yung labor, saan galing? Direct labor budget. Overhead, saan galing? Overhead budget. Work in process, beginning and ending, well, you should have a certain desired beginning or ending. Or sometimes, it's also possible to have a separate inventory budget. No? Ending inventory budget, beginning inventory budget. And then, once again, desired ending mo, desired beginning, nandito di. Cost of goods sold. So, it will look like this. Oh, ano meron tayo? May sales na tayo, galing sa sales budget. May cost of sales na tayo. Operating expense na lang, kompleto ng inyong income statement. So, gagawa tayo ng budget para doon. Operating expense budget. Again, it's a comprehensive look at your business. Comprehensive budgeting. What are you spending? So, selling, administrative expense. Lahat na. Salaries, transportation, food, representation. Lalagay mo yan dito lahat for operating expenses. The total, that's your operating expense budget. Now, put it all together into an income statement. You now have a parang estimate of your income statement for the year. Sales, galing sa sales budget. Cost of goods sold, galing sa schedule of cost of goods manufactured and sold. Minus dun, gross profit. Operating expense, galing sa operating expense budget. Bring it down, may estimate ka na ng iyong net income. From there, you would also like to look at it in terms of cash. So you translate the figures that you have, try to estimate out of the sales, for example, how much of that is going to be collected. So cash receipts. Sa cash disbursements naman, how much of that is going to be paid in cash. So the materials, labor, overhead, OPEX, etc. You translate it into cash to see, can you afford it? Are you liquid enough to do it? So summarize it as a cash budget, as a parang cash flow statement. Beginning cash balance, add cash receipts, less cash disbursement, ending cash balance. And then try to put it together, no? Based on that, how much is probably your cash, your asset at the end of the year, how much is uncollected, how much is your receivable, how much your inventory, look at your PPE. So very comprehensive. Look at it. It changes a little from business to business. In problem solving, in board exam purposes, it varies a little from given to given. But the essence is to estimate your assets, your liabilities, and equity after all the transactions para meron kang budgeted balance sheet at the end of the year. So, ilalagay mo. O, diba? Very comprehensive. That's my introduction to master budget. So, a very comprehensive tool that will really force you to make decisions about your business because it pretty much covers everything. So, hanggang dito na lang muna ang aking introduction para sa aking mga estudyante sa class. I will be sending a comprehensive example to illustrate this particular concept, and I hope you can try to follow the computations there, and we'll talk about this more in detail in our synchronous class. So hanggang dito na lang muna ang aking introduction. Maraming salamat. Good evening.